Hello everybody, today we've got another 2024 election recap. We're going to cover everything in Montana, Colorado, Alabama, Alaska, but we're going to kick it off here in Pennsylvania. So let's dive right in. We've got Trump at the top of the ticket. He won the state with 50.4% of the vote. That's higher than what he got in 16 as well as what Biden got in 20. And Harris at 48.7. Trump did win the key bellwether county of Erie. We'll take a look at some of the counties in a different video. But Jill Stein and Chase Oliver are both pulling in 0.5%. Next, we've got a U.S. Senate race, and this was the big one for the GOP. Three-term incumbent Democrat Bob Casey was actually defeated by Republican challenger Dave McCormick. McCormick at 48.8, Casey at 48.6. This was the last Senate race to be called. It dragged on for a while, but like we've seen in other Senate races, McCormick ran about 1.5 points behind Trump, and Casey actually ran slightly behind Harris. And McCormick did not even win Erie County, but with the margins in the other counties plus the third-party vote, this was enough for a moderately shocking upset where Republicans were able to add one more seat to their majority. But the Republican success in this state did not stop in the Senate. In the U.S. House, there are 17 seats. Republicans have 10 of them, Democrats 7. Republicans held all their own seats, plus they hit 2 flips in the eastern part of the state. The first was in the 7th, where Ryan McKenzie took down incumbent Susan Wild. And north of that, in the northeastern part of the state, it's trended toward the right now for several cycles. But Matt Cartwright, the Democrat, has been able to hold on until now. Rob Bresnahan, the Republican challenger, was able to finally take him down. The margins were under 2 points, but those are some key flips in a state that Republicans did struggle with in the recent midterms. Democrats came close to flipping a seat themselves in the 10th district, but Republican Scott Perry was able to hold on there over Janelle Stelson. Now, there is no governor's race this year. That's in a couple of years, but in the state legislature, Republicans do have a majority in the state Senate, 28-22, but in the state House, Democrats were able to narrowly hold on to that majority by just 1 seat. So it's going to be divided government in the Keystone State. So after all that, there are still 3 other statewide offices up for grabs, and Republicans actually swept all 3 of them. That's going to be Attorney General, Auditor General, and Treasurer. Those last 2 Republicans already held, but for AG, Dave Sunday was able to flip and make that seat red. So all things considered, no doubt Republicans are going to take all this as a win. So let's head out west to Big Sky Country. We've got Montana, and Trump wins the state by 20 points. That's a little bit better than he did in 2020. He's at 58.5, Harris is at 38.5. Kennedy pulls in 2%. The bigger race here is going to be also in the U.S. Senate. Another 3-term incumbent Democrat, John Tester, was defeated by Republican challenger Tim Sheehy. It was by about a 7-point margin. The GOP has been looking to take him out for a long time, and Tester has mostly run in favorable environments in the past. But this time everything caught up to him, and he was convincingly defeated by Sheehy, and Republicans here with a pickup. Sheehy did run about 6 points behind Trump, and Tester ran about 7 ahead of Harris. That is very impressive, but the state was just too red for Tester. Almost nobody's going to be able to overcome a 20-point deficit and get all that crossover. There's another race here. We've got governor, and incumbent Republican Greg Gianforte was reelected with just under 59%. Ryan Bussey at about 38.5. It's a similar margin to what Trump and Harris got at the top of the ticket. Then in the U.S. House, there are 2 districts, and only the first district is semi-competitive. It was a rematch between Ryan Zinke and Monica Tranel. Zinke improved on his margin from 2020. This time he won by about 8. The second district was an open seat, and Troy Downing is going to replace Matt Rosendale in that seat. In the state legislature, Dems did make some gains here, but Republicans still have decisive majorities, 32-18 in the Senate and 58-41 in the House. Then we've got a few ballot measures here. This first one would create a top 4 primary election system for the House, Senate, governor, and state races. This one was contentious, but it failed by about 2 points. Then we've got another election-related one here. This would make it so that those same offices can only be won by receiving a majority of the vote and not a plurality. I think that's an interesting one, but it was rejected with 60% voting no. Then we've got an abortion amendment. This would establish a right for individuals to have access to the procedure and prohibit the government from punishing doctors or those who receive abortions. Pretty clean pass here with 58% saying yes. Then we've got the other statewide offices, and the quick summary here is Republicans swept all of them with at least 57%. And last we've got the Supreme Court. There were 2 justices here, and it looks like the Republicans and the Democrats both can claim victory for one of those seats. And finally, the Public Service Commission has Republicans sweeping all 3. Next, let's head a little bit south into Colorado. And here, as expected, Kamala Harris wins the state convincingly by 11 points. The margin here is reduced a little bit from 2020. Kennedy here gets 1%. No governor or Senate race this year, but we do have the U.S. House, and there are 8 seats. Republicans are going to have 4. Democrats are also going to have 4. The biggest story here is going to be in the 8th district. That's the newest one that was created after redistricting. And Gabe Evans, the Republican, was able to knock out Yadira Caraveo, the freshman Democrat. Last time it was very close. This time it was also close, but it went in the other direction. So that is clearly a competitive competitive seat. The only other district that was semi-competitive is the 3rd. That's the seat that Lauren Boebert used to represent until she changed districts. This time that seat was won by Jeff Hurd, the Republican, by 5 points. In the state legislature, it's going to be dominated by Democrats, but they might have come up just short on a supermajority. Given how blue the state has become over the past 20 years, that's not a shock. Colorado has a slew of ballot measures, and many of these are not controversial. The first one would extend a tax exemption for disabled veterans. That was an easy pass with 73%. The second one would establish an independent commission responsible for holding disciplinary hearings for judges and justices. Another very easy pass, also at 73. The next one indicates they're going to get a little bit tougher on crime here. This would create an exception to the right of bail for those facing first-degree murder charges. Another easy pass with 68%. The next one would remove language from the Constitution that says a union of one man and one woman. This one also sailed through with 64%. The next one would make the deadline to submit ballot measure signatures 1 week earlier. Not exactly sure what that deadline is, but it looks like they decided against that with 55 saying no. The next one is about abortion, and it would recognize the right to the procedure and prohibit state and local governments from impeding that right. That was another pass with 62%. The next one would establish school choice for students from kindergarten to 12th grade. That would include charter, private, and homeschooling. That was very close, but it failed with no getting 50.7. And there's a lot here in Colorado. We're going to skip over the next one. Prop KK would authorize an excise tax on gun dealers in order to fund mental health services for veterans and at-risk youth. That passed with 54%. Making it a crime to hunt mountain lions, lynx, and bobcats. That failed with 55% saying no. The next one would raise the threshold for violent offenders on how much they have to serve before they're eligible for parole. That would take it from 75 to 85%, and that passed with 62% saying yes. Prop 129 is also interesting. This would establish a veterinary professional associate profession that sets qualifications, making it a crime to practice veterinary medicine without being registered with a state board. That was close, but 53% said yeah, they want that requirement. The next one would appropriate $350 million for an officer training and support fund and increase annual pay for police officers. That passed with 53%. And the very last one here is a top 4 primary with ranked choice voting. That failed with no saying 54%. There's a lot there. The last few are regarding transportation and education. Feel free to pause it if you'd like, and also all the links will be down below in the description. Next, let's move on to a red state. We've got Alabama, and here Trump won the state with just under 65%. Harris is over 34%. And there's not a whole lot to say about it. That's an improvement for Trump over 2020. Now, there's no Senate or governor's race here, but we've got 7 seats in the U.S. House, and previously Republicans controlled 6 of those 7, but they did redraw the map to make it more favorable for the Dems in one of these seats, and that resulted in the Dems flipping the 2nd district. Jomari Figures won that by about 9 points. So that's not a surprise, but it is a big pickup for the Dems considering how narrow the majority is for the Republicans. The other seats are not at all competitive, and there's not a whole lot else here for Alabama. We've got one ballot measure here, but this is not anything juicy whatsoever, so I'm going to just gloss over that, and then we've got the other races here. The most high profile is probably going to be the Supreme Court and the State Board of Education, and given how red the state is, Republicans pretty much swept almost everything. So there's a whole lot less here in Alabama than in Colorado, but we can move on to the last state. It's the last frontier, and that's Alaska. Here we've got Trump winning this state by about 13 points. He's at 54.5. Harris is at about 41.5. Kennedy here at 1.7. So Trump wins the state by more than he did in 2020. And it'd be nice if they had a map of the boroughs here, but they don't. So we're going to move on, and there's no governor's or Senate race this year, but we do have one race in the U.S. House, and it was very high profile. Nick Begich III was able to take down freshman incumbent Democrat Mary Peltola. That was a big pickup last time for the Democrats. This time, Begich secured the win with 51.3. Peltola is at 48.7. I thought this one could go either way, where Peltola might have a unique appeal and she could hang on, or given how red the state is at the top, I thought Begich could pull it out, and he did. If Peltola ran against Sarah Palin yet again, I think she would have easily been able to hold on to that seat. So after that, we're going to go down to the state legislature, and I think this is probably the weirdest balance of power out of all the states. There's different coalitions here, and Democrats did make some gains, but in the state Senate, it shows 11 Republicans to 9 Dems, and in the House, 19 Republicans to 13 Dems. So to make it less confusing, we're going to finish it up here on the ballot measures, and we've got 2 here. The first one would raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2027 and would ensure paid sick leave for workers. That one did not seem controversial. It passed with 58%. And the second one, which was extremely contentious, it would eliminate ranked choice voting in the top 4 primary system. It looked like it was going to pass, but once every vote came in, looks like no just narrowly came out on top with 50.1%. When that passed, it was very narrow. This repeal vote is also very narrow. So ranked choice voting continues to be highly polarizing. confusing. But in pretty much every other location except for DC, ranked choice did fail. But looks like we're going to continue to see it here in Alaska and in Maine. So that's it. That's another recap of 5 different states. There's some interesting stuff there, especially in the ballot measures. But in the U.S. House, Republicans make a gain in a blue state like Colorado, while Democrats make a gain in a red state like Alabama. Very fascinating stuff, but let me know in the comments. What do you think about any of the results in any of these states? What about the Republicans flipping that Senate seat in Pennsylvania? How about the balance of power in the state legislatures? And anything in any of these ballot measures? Let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.